Hey everyone, it's Mr. Hollywood, and today is the battle of Christopher Nolan between Inception and Interstellar. Now, before I give you my pick for what's the better between these two, feel free to share your pick of those two down below in the comments, and let's begin. Now, Inception and Interstellar, I feel like is a little more of an appropriate matchup than something like maybe Inception and Dark Knight, which are probably his two most popular films, alongside with something like probably Interstellar and Oppenheimer. But I think Inception and Interstellar kind of blend together and feel a little more comparable. And actually, I will just say this, these are my two favorite Christopher Nolan movies. And it is even also pretty tough to even choose one. It's one of those things where if you ask me tomorrow, I could easily change that. But for now, here are my thoughts. So Inception tells a story about Leonardo DiCaprio entering people's dreams and leaving his kids. And by the end, it is a kind of is like a cliffhanger without like any like as much clear finality, where you kind of have to make it up ambiguous, a bit of an ambiguous ending, where you kind of have to make up in your mind what did happen. I think he entered home, but there are theories where he didn't, so that's a good argument. But I personally think he entered home at the end. And then Interstellar is a little more of a personal story and boils down to a father's sacrifice, where he has to leave his children to save humanity. And when he messes up and they get stuck on that planet, he loses like 20 years with his kids. And I will just say that scene where he was crying looking through video montages and they played Hans Zimmer score. I mean, yeah, the whole movie, like the way it connected emotionally, I mean, I think it was awesome. It gave you the right emotions. So just in terms of like an emotional experience, easily Interstellar. And then by the end, he gets home. And, you know, the ending is controversial, but for the most part, I like the ending. And then, you know, his kids aged a lot. But, I think, like, both of them, you know, kind of use science a bit, which I appreciate. And they definitely feel like its own story, which I also appreciate. And in terms of acting, both of these movies have world-class acting with Leonardo DiCaprio in Inception and Matthew McConaughey in Interstellar. And both of them have magnificent Hans Zimmer score. My personal pick, Inception on Hans Zimmer. And then in terms of story, in terms of like simpler, it would be Interstellar. In terms of like ambition and taking risks, I'd go with Inception. You know, just the idea of entering into people's dreams. And when he did Tenet, he obviously took inspiration from Inception. And by the way, I believe today they're in California, they are streaming Tenet at big screen, and I'm actually one of the few people that was fortunate enough to see it on the big screen during COVID, because my dad rented out a theater, so I got to see Tenet on the big screen. Little fun fact, but yeah, you know, Inception kind of set the stage for Christopher Nolan. This is kind of like, so like, if Following kind of put him up there, saying like this guy knows how to make movies, and Memento put him on the map, and then Insomnia like was also part of that era, and then like probably Batman Begins was one of his first big movies, and then he did The Prestige, and then he did The Dark Knight, where fans were going nuts. But then I feel like once he did Inception, people are like, yeah, this guy's like already one of the great directors of all time. And he's definitely proved that, yeah, since then. So yeah, you know, in terms of like revolutionary, it would honestly be Inception. And in terms of like how it makes me feel, like which one did I personally resonate, I do with Interstellar in that one. I don't know, just a simple father sacrifice. And, leaving the kids, which I know he also did that in Inception. But still, I think Interstellar deeply emotionally resonated with me a little bit harder than Inception. And then in terms of what I'm more likely to rewatch, probably Inception. Because, Interstellar's a little sadder, where Inception, while it could be a little bit confusing, I am entertained all the way through. And, I'm entertained with Interstellar, but Inception's a little easier for me to try to rewatch. And, in terms of, like, my favorite and best, I almost decided to have, like, a different answer, but I pretty much have the same answer for what I think is my favorite and what I think is the better made. So, after all that, what is my favorite / best between Christopher Nolan's films? Because these are my two favorite, and probably the two best in my opinion. The winner of the Christopher Nolan battle, as of today, is Inception. Yeah, even though, like, Interstellar deeply emotionally resonated with me a little bit harder, Interstellar did. Inception is still, like, just brilliant filmmaking. And to be fair, so is Interstellar, but there's just something about Inception where it can only be that film. So it kind of stood out a little bit more. So, overall, I think these movies are both awesome. These are both all-time greats. I would go with Inception. Now, thanks for watching. Feel free to share what you think is better down below in the comments. And I cannot wait to do more director showdowns. I actually have a lot of fun doing these directors. And maybe I'll do it with, like, actors where I won't, like, compare these actors, but, like, I'll do maybe, like, actors' filmography. Maybe I'll just do duels. Or just two different movies where it doesn't need to be the same director. But anyways, that's for another time. But anyways, thanks for watching, and peace out.